and foremost, welcome everyone to our first menopause nutrition and training chat. This is a really exciting conversation that we have pulled in two professionals and experts in their industry for. So first and foremost, I want to introduce these two amazing women. I've had the honor of working with Michele for 13 years. She is our National Fitness Director at Orangetheory Fitness Canada, bringing over 40 years of experience to the industry. She's been a pioneering force in the brand's expansion, and she's been instrumental in developing over 100 studios since Orangetheory's launch in Canada in 2012. In addition to her leadership role, Michele remains passionate about coaching, actively coaching classes, and connecting with members. She initiated the platform that drives Orangetheory today by establishing consistent programming and structured training programs for coaches. This comprehensive approach has ensured that each studio opens successfully and the workout experience remains consistent across the globe. Under Michele's leadership, OTF Canada has set a remarkable standard for excellence and community engagement, making a lasting impact on the fitness landscape across the nation. Our second professional is Rory Hornstein. She is a registered dietitian specializing in nutrition, sports exercise, weight management, eating disorders and body image, food intolerances and allergies, immune system enhancement, women's health and hormonal nutrition, and digestive disorders. Rory is a specialist in nutrition and chronic illness management, bringing years of experience and a wealth of knowledge to the discussion. She is highly sought after for her vast specialized knowledge and experience, as well as her warm and personalized approach. She is proud to be the nutrition consultant for the Glencoe Club, Lifemark, Springboro, Toronto Immune Digestive Health Institute, Group 23 Sports Med, Canada Western Summer Games, Back and Body Health, and the Mount Royal University Rec Services in Calgary. She is also the designated nutrition consultant in the Inflammatory Bowel Disease Clinic, Division of Gastroenterology in the University of Calgary, and her private practice. She is a member of the College of Dietitians of Alberta, Ontario, and British Columbia, and has 4 years of experience as co-chair of the DC's practice group of sports nutritionists. Rory is a bariatric, I always say that one wrong, bariatric dietitian empowering her clients to become intuitive eaters and reach their personal goals one bite at a time. She uses a non-dieting approach to her practice, encouraging her clients to adopt an overall healthier lifestyle. Her deep commitment to work and her extensive knowledge in her field stems from personal connection and firsthand experience. At the tender age of 12, Rory was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. After many years of struggling to heal and manage her disease, she realized the power of using diet in conjunction with traditional medicine to control her IBD, rather than allowing it to control her. Nutrition became the link between feeling sick and feeling well. Rory is also a member at our OTF West Springs location for the last 10 years, so she also comes with an extensive knowledge of what we do every day. Now, on this panel, we want this to be more of a conversation. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat as we're going. If they are relevant to the question that we are on, I'll do my best to get to them and ask them to the ladies. We have a group of coaches, franchisees, members, studio staff on here. And our goal is to give you some more information and debunk some of the things that you either see on social media or seem more extreme, obviously, than they are. As a reminder, this is not above a doctor's recommendation. We want to make sure that you are still seeking out, professional support if you are going down any paths. This is not medical advice. All right. So our first question, should women's nutrition change as they age to support their hormonal health during menopause? Rory.
Sounds good. Thanks for the intro. So there is no like menopause diet, right? And so definitely things change as we evolve and transition into menopause. I like to think about it as more inclusive. So you're adding things in as opposed to restricting and taking things away. There's a lot of things as we transition into this lifespan right now that it's like, I don't want to have that. And I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that. And it's from, I find the both nutrition and the exercise perspective. But really, if it's about the things that you add in, you can actually fix and remedy the issue. And turning that mind frame around is really, really important. Like talking about the gut microbiome and the bacteria within the gut. So I'm going to be bringing that up a lot. So I start by just explaining kind of what I'm talking about when I mention the gut microbiome. So then if the term comes up again, you kind of know what that is. But we're really looking at the bacteria within the gut. and how that changes over time. So when we're born, we have a lot of diversity within that bacteria. And as we get older, it tends to be less diversified and start to look the same, and it doesn't work as well. And a major hit for that transition is menopause. When the estrogen level and progesterone start to drop, that's a massive hit for the microbiome, and those bacteria start to look the same and don't work as well. The reason the diversity is so important is because there's a connection made between the gut and the brain, which is made through what's called the vagus nerve. So we know that the more diversity you have within that bacteria, the easier it is for the gut to send a message to the brain. The brain can manage things like cortisol and inflammation, which I'm sure Michelle will bring up in terms of the exercise piece, insulin and weight, which I know is going to come up, and then hormones, which we're talking about today, mood, stress, all of it. So if you're in a state of that dysbiosis where that bacteria starts to look the same, it doesn't work as well. And then all that stuff kind of goes out the window. So we know that there are things that we can change as we evolve with nutrition, and especially that gut microbiome, which again just means the bacteria within the gut through exercise and through changing certain foods, which we'll talk about, like fiber and things like that. So that gut microbiome connection or the gut-brain axis is really, really important. Other things that change is just the way we eat, like looking at more inclusive, like less restrictive in terms of a Mediterranean diet, using things like phytoestrogens become more important in terms of managing menopausal symptoms, and like digestion changes as well. So absolutely, there's a lot of things that change during menopause.
And I think that that's a really important thing for people to hear because a lot of the time we're told to eliminate, get rid of this, get rid of that. That's going to solve all your problems. Whereas it's kind of the opposite. Like, what more can you add to your diet to help build that gut microbiome?
Right.
Just I thank you to Diane who let me know the chat is disabled, but Q&A, you guys can put questions in the Q&A, and then I'll bring them up to the ladies. Okay, you're still in the hot seat. Why is it harder for women to lose weight during menopause?
Okay, so a big thing is that the physiology changes, right? And so the way that the body uses estrogen and progesterone changes, and that can actually affect your metabolism. So it's not necessarily harder, it's just that we need to adapt to our physiology that's taking place. Like as the estrogen drops, we have less muscle mass. That might feel like it's weight gain, but really is a bloat. Like there's a lot of changes kind of going on from a physiological perspective that change. Our appetite changes as the estrogen and progesterone start to drop. So that's going to change too, right? So it's not that weight loss becomes harder, it's that you have to just approach it differently, right? Stress and sleep is a huge one. Sleep is a major factor with women going through perimenopause and menopause. And so if you're not sleeping, that affects your metabolism, which is going to affect weight gain. So it's not weight, it's what's causing the weight to either not move, go up, or stay the same. Right. And I think one of the questions down the line talks more about how do we individualize that approach in terms of weight metabolism or weight management with their metabolism. The gut microbiome changes, as like I just mentioned, right? So when the gut microbiome changes, if you have less diversity within those bacteria, if you don't fix the gut microbiome and adjust to those changes during menopause, it's much harder for the gut to send a message to the brain. So there's no way you can manage insulin and weight goes up, right?
Yeah.
So really looking at it clinically, which can be hard to kind of approach in a medical setting because you either have a doctor who's like, let's try this, or you have doctors who are like, sorry, like good luck on your own, right? So there's no kind of like ground zero at this point. It's really on who your treatment is coming from and who's willing to do the test to see what the hormones are at, to see if they're willing to do a hormone replacement therapy, if that's an option. It's just black and white thinking, right? In terms of what kind of treatment you're going to get, which makes it hard.
Yeah. I think the black and white thinking also makes women feel like weight gain is just part of menopause. Like it's just something that they have to come to terms with and there's no solution. And I remember going to one of your talks and it you presented on like it is possible for women to lose weight in a calorie deficit during menopause. Like you said, there's other factors to consider, but like it's not impossible.
No, it's not impossible.
Yeah. I think that that makes a lot of us feel better
Yeah,
immediately.
it should.
100%. 100%. And like one of the questions from Denise that kind of relates to this, like how will you go over how to change the gut microbiome? I think it's
Yeah,
like to the first question as well, like diversity is a big thing.
yeah, absolutely. That's my favorite question.
Yeah, yeah. I'll make sure that that's if we don't touch on the next ones because we have some more that will
Yeah.
to this, Denise. I'll keep that in there. Okay, perfect. Michelle, do some women need to exercise differently during perimenopause and menopause?
Yes, definitely. It's going to basically depend on the type of symptoms that you're having and the hormonal changes. Obviously, like Rory just said, like you could be sleep deprived. That sleep is so critically important. So you may feel more fatigued. Really being finding a balanced approach. And what you've done maybe prior to menopause or perimenopause may not be what or how you should train during that time based on all those hormonal changes, and really ensuring that you have, like I say, a balanced approach of what you should be doing. And we're going to dive deep into this because you hear it and see it everywhere about the strength training aspect. And when I say balanced, yes, cardio is part of your balance because that is our heart health. But knowing that after the age of 30, that we're losing 3 to 8% of our muscle mass, and then it accelerates when we're 50, it's 1 to 2% per year up to that. We do have to train differently during this time and deal with those hormonal fluctuations and on obviously weight management as well.
Yeah. Well, and I think we might change how you're approaching your workout, but like you're still, we still go to the same place. We're still like doing Orangetheory. It's just like, how are you tackling that workout? With what both of you are saying, like listen to your body more. You're not going to be going at the same pace as you did when you were 20.
Yeah. And I'm going to say you've got to be intentional with recovery. Like it becomes even more critically important, especially if you're trying to go 5, 7 times a week and we're not doing so. For example, I'll go deeper into this later, but green days. Why are green days important? You don't need to be pushing your body to every single all out that you had like 2 years ago. Like there's a better approach to during this time so that we're not fatiguing the body more than it may already be, depending on your symptoms.
Yeah. And kind of like Rory brought it up as well, like more isn't always better, right? I think that when we get to this point and we feel really stuck, you just do more and more and more. And Michelle, I think you even said that before we started. Sometimes you feel like I'll just exercise more, I'll lift more, I'll run more. And it doesn't need to be that mentality.
No, and I will say for everyone, like I'm turning 60 this year, and if I knew then, like when I was going through severe symptoms, what I know now, I would have done it all different because I did exactly just I said. I exercised more, I ate less, and it completely went backwards. I just continue to gain weight, and yeah, so I love that we're doing this because I think it's so important.
Well, and Rory, I'm sure you've had a ton of clients come to you in the exact same position that Michelle was in, right? Like eating
Yeah.
less, exercising more.
Yeah. I've had 4 today.
Today.
Like literally, this is number 5. It's
Oh my,
just a big marketplace here. But
totally. And I think that that's just what we've just been told over the years. We're doing what we thought worked back in our 20s.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally. Okay. What are the 3 habits with the biggest return on investment when it comes to nutrition, Rory?
So I think protein is a huge one. Absolutely, in terms of all the muscle mass and everything else, and ensuring you're getting not just protein, but the form and the quality of the protein you're getting. The plant diversity is massive, which you've already mentioned, just diversity and not eating the same thing all the time, which we'll talk about. And then the Mediterranean pattern, which is now evidence-based for menopause, right? So those 3 things are the ones I like to kind of focus on. Within them, there's a whole bunch of things that branch off, right? But the protein, just in terms again of the metabolism and the muscle preservation, healthy aging, satiety, like feeling full after eating, like all those things are really important, including it throughout the day. But also the plant diversity. So evidence now shows that if you have 30 different plant, I call them plant integrity stars per week, each star has to be something different, right? So it's only 1 star per food per week. That the more that you can reach that 30 stars per week, the more you can actually optimize the gut microbiome and the bacteria within the gut. What happens, I find, is that like people, women have found a niche in terms of every morning I get up and I do my yogurt and I do my walnuts and my chia seeds and blueberries. Like that is awesome. Okay. You've got some fiber, you got some antioxidants, you got some protein, you got some great fats there going on, but you are eating the same thing every single day. So really the only way you can gain a star is by eating something that promotes fiber. So the chia seeds give you a star, the blueberries give you a star, The walnuts give you a star. The yogurt's great. It's fermented, but no star for you, right? So 3 stars. But if you do that 5 times a week, I'm going to give you high fives, but I'm not giving you a star, right? Like
Yeah.
you can only
Yeah.
get blueberries once. Like shake it up for the love of God and put a pecan or a raspberry. Like have some cottage cheese. Like just shake it up because your gut has caught on. And as that estrogen level starts to drop, it's the same every day, and it doesn't work. To the point that about 5 years ago, I created my own guide and I actually show people like where they're actually getting stars from, right? So there's stars by certain foods and they can track their own stars because if you're hitting 30 stars per week, you're pretty much eating a Mediterranean diet, which feeds into the third habit. It's optimizing fiber that promotes more diversity within the microbiome, helps with a lot of the digestive issues that women will experience during menopause. Omega-3 fats that help reduce inflammation. So it's great with recovery with some of the workouts, but also brain health and brain fog and everything else. Diversity is key. Most women are lacking that. And then reducing refined and processed foods. So if you're eating like that, you're eating Mediterranean, right? There's a reason why people can travel to Europe and eat whatever they want and have no issue. It's diversity. It's also less processed foods. They know what they're doing there. So we should be mimicking what they're doing because this is mostly a North American issue.
Yeah. 100%. I think just the question on the start, would you be able to set like members or staff can reach out to you for the chart?
Yeah, yeah, if
Yeah.
they'd like to try it here too. I mean, it's a chart. There's obviously strategy in terms of using the chart.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to give them a copy of it. You have,
Yeah.
or I can send you a PDF of it and you can distribute it. That's fine.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I think when for the other question, like what a star is, what Rory is talking about is just like the variety in your diet.
Yeah, it's all about diversity. It's just not eating the same thing all the day. I think I don't meet a lot of women who eat crap. Like I really don't. Okay. I don't meet a lot of people who eat just garbage, right? I meet people who are eating really clean and doing again the chia seeds, the hemp parts, and that's a great, and they're not seeing any results. And it's because they're eating the same thing all the time.
Yes, change. From the chat I did with you in the last conference, like when you go to Costco, instead of just always buying the blueberries, get strawberries next time or get the mix pack. Like just you can still do what you're doing, but try a different fruit, try a different nut, try a different like that's how that it can be as easy as that as adding variety, right?
Costco is literally keeping me in business. Like, literally, they can never close. Like I know every product. I don't even go to Costco, and I know every product at Costco that's contributing to issues for people I work with.
Perfect. Perfect. That's amazing. Do you have a question? Like, as a vegetarian, what would be the best quality protein for them?
Oh, you can still eat legumes and beans. Like we'll talk about that when we get to the digestive piece, but that's huge, right? And the nice thing about like all the plant-based foods is like they're all listed here, right? They're all pretty easy to digest. It's the combination of those foods with other ones that actually create more malabsorption issues, right? So all of them have stars. They're awesome, right? Like the tofu, the edamame, it's the processed stuff. As soon as you kind of talk with people who are going more plant-based and they're using more processed like tofurkey, and Beyond Meat burgers, it's like now you're just eating plant-based, but it's still processed, right? Like
Yeah.
not necessarily going to be easier for you to absorb just because it doesn't have any animal protein in it, right? But you
Yeah.
can maintain all these goals. It should be easier as a plant-based vegetarian or somebody who's veganish or whatever to be able to hit all your marks. But the problem is it ends up being the absorption piece, right? Is that, you're doing it so long, the fiber intake's so high, but now it's like it's a lot as the estrogen starts to drop. So some people who had no problem doing it in their 20s and 30s end up having more digestive issues as a result of maintaining plant-based unless
Mm,
they can figure that piece out.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. Moving on. It's kind of both. Michelle's getting excited. So I know I'm on social media. I know I've had this conversation in studio with members. Social media says women should stop doing cardio and only lift weights as we age. Is this good advice? How should women modify? I mean, we are talking to a group of people that currently go to Orangetheory. How should they modify their OTF workouts to work for them in this stage of their lives?
Well, I don't know. I'm so eager. I don't know if you want to start, Rory, but like
No,
this
I
one is
don't.
on
I'd
me.
rather just hear what you have to say.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Cardio is basically maintaining your heart, it's your heart health. So when you think about Orange Theory, we have a balanced workout, but the risk of cardiovascular disease increases after the age of 50. So why would we stop doing cardio? The approach to how we do it, definitely with Orange Theory, can change, but just think about it. Our like longevity is dictated by our VO2 max. So that's the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. That higher that VO2 max, the more efficient your heart and lungs are. So why would we ever think of taking out cardio? Now, how can women approach it with their Orange Theory workouts? I did it. I wish I did it sooner. Become a power walker. It is okay to power walk.
I'm a
It
power
is a
walker.
great exercise for hamstring, glutes, those calves, that posterior side. And I think even if you are a jogger runner, do you need to be hitting the high end of orange and doing your max all outs? No. Yes, interval training can be done, but does it have to be done to the intensity level that you did prior to menopause or perimenopause? Absolutely not. So again, if you want to do interval training and you love that part of the Orange Theory workout, great. But do you need to do it 3, 4, 5 times a week? Maybe it's 2 times a week. And maybe you walk the other times. Lower the intensity slightly. Consider those power walking days. And also, I know there's some people on here that go 7 days a week. Have a green day. We encourage green days. It doesn't have to be all out efforts. I think that is the point I want to drive home the most is you don't have to do the workout to the same intensity that you once did when you're going through these hormonal changes, when your body may already be stressed, when you may already be fatigued. Why fatigue it more by doing something that is probably not going to be beneficial to you? Train smart, I would like to say, train smarter, not harder, is kind of what it was because I did the opposite. So adapt your workout during this time because you do need that cardio. It is heart health. We need this. I don't know. I could go on forever about this, but again, it's also weight management is like your moods. Think about the endorphins that are released when you do cardio. They're happy. You walk into an Orange Theory workout and maybe you're just feeling sluggish, but when you're done, you're like, oh, I feel great. Yeah, we need it. So Rory, I'll let you, I know we could go on forever,
Awesome.
but yes.
I'm super happy to hear that I'm doing what you're suggesting. I've been power walking for years. I don't think I ever ran. But yeah, the strength and cardio, it's a mix of the both. And it's just the goal isn't to stop cardio, it's prioritizing the strength and then fueling your body enough to do either, right? Like in terms of the nutrition point of view, like it's finding a balance. I kind of look at it like when I have clients who will just do one form of exercise, like one kind of studio. It's the same thing every single day. It's like your body's catching on. So for me, it's the same way as looking at like doing the same foods every single day. Like you got to shake it up and it has to be different than what you're doing. If you're a runner running for years and years, shake it up and power walk. Like just do something different or every day do something different. Exactly what you were talking about, Michelle. Like I think it's super smart.
And I think I didn't touch on it. I'll dive in a little bit now, but I think this is, especially when we talk about muscle mass loss, start on the rower. In a 2G class, start on the rower. First of all, rowing is low impact. It uses over 80% of your muscles. So think of it as strength training. Even when you are doing rowing intervals, do you have to go all out? Keep it the strength way. You know, that 1 count back, 3 forward. Think of muscle versus going over speed and get to the floor so that you are fresh on the floor. Because when we dive more into how you should strength train on the floor and the weights that you're trying to use, we want to have our maximal ability to, or energy applied on the floor. So 2G classes, you shouldn't be ignoring them. Start on the rower, go to the floor. And when you think about a 3G class, if you are starting on the rower, think about that opportunity on how you row. Just like I said, become a power walker. Think of how you're going to row versus going all out speed. Think of how much power can I produce and create high wattage. That's strength on that rower without going breathless. And then with our ability to use the Y bells now, pick the heavier Y bell. If it says 12 reps and you get to 8, great. So again, we do have to adapt the workouts, but we can do it in a really smart way. And yes, those people that love the treadmill the most, you know what, just step out of that comfort zone a little bit and see, how much more energy you could have to lift those heavier weights, especially on those big muscles, those foundational movements of our squats, our deadlifts, our chest press, our back, everything we're doing in Season of Strength. And I hope Season of Strength actually was everybody on here did that, so you can kind of see your strength that has improved over these already 7 of the 8 weeks.
Yeah. I think we always say too, like wherever you start is where you're the freshest and where you're going to put your the most energy too, right? So if you want to focus on maintaining or building some muscle, you do need to kind of like the theme of what you guys are saying is like it's time to change it up, like adding more variety to your diet, adding some variety to your workouts. Variety might mean learning how to love the rower, which nobody on this call wants to hear. You might have to learn how to like row, like you challenge the treadmill where you choose a speed and you're like, I'm going to do that for today. And one of the questions, like you guys hit on it, it doesn't just have to be hitting the orange zone all the time. One of the questions was like, should we still be looking for 12 or more spot points in a class? Does that still like, Michelle, does that matter?
No, at the end of the day, 12 to 20 splat points is an average, right? Like some workouts you may not get it, but that should not be the focus. I think during this time, because more is not better, it is listen to your body, and we need that intentional active recovery. We need those intentional recovery days, like whether that's extra stretching or going a yin class. We need to train differently during this time. So I would just say spot points, no, don't be paying attention to spot points right now.
Yeah. And like to go back to the other answers, maybe you're tired, maybe you didn't sleep very well, maybe you're extra stressed. Like you can't have all those compounding factors and then think you're going to come and sprint like you used to, maybe at the beginning of the week when you were fresh and you slept all weekend and you had a great food weekend where you like did eat a lot of like you just felt so good and by the end of the week you're like I just don't have it. So it's okay to modify those things. Yeah. Okay, I get excited. All right, how important is strength training and protein for women as they age? Ladies.
Rory, I'll let you take the protein.
Um, well, I think we've talked about a lot about the muscle, and the muscle being the priority, especially during menopause. The one thing that we haven't talked about separate from the protein is bone health.
Mhm.
And as estrogen decreases, you get an increased bone loss risk, right? So that's a big factor, right? And I think that also goes right into the strength training, and the protein, right? And so the risk of, people not getting enough calcium or vitamin D within their diet, magnesium, things like that that help with bone health. So I think that you also have to take that in consideration as well, having bone mass, injuries, things like that, right? And then you're more susceptible to fractures and things like and going through menopause. And it's a big because as soon as you get injured, right, and then you're out, and it's a recurring kind of injury, well, then you've stopped exercising, which is going to affect your gut microbiome, which is going to affect all the other symptoms that you're having, right? A lot of the women that I tend to see, who are much older, like in their, 70s, 80s, things like that. I had a woman who was like 82 in my office last week, and she's like, and she's having some digestion issues, and she's noticing just shifts and things are just a little bit off compared to what they were. And she's like, I don't understand why this is happening all of a sudden. I'm like, all of a sudden you're 82. Like, right? Like it's amazing. And I find that the women that this is happening to, it's the women who've been super active throughout. Like she's playing pickleball and she's golfing and she's hiking and she's walking and she walks her dogs. Like she hasn't stopped. She's doing different forms of exercise, but it's just catching up with her now, as opposed to the women who I find that aren't as active and in their 20s, early 30s, they're experiencing a lot of these changes and a lot of these shifts a lot earlier because they aren't active, right? So
Mhm.
looking at the whole gamut, and I think that's what it comes down to. It's not going to be just fiber, protein, calcium, things like that, sugars, this or that. Like it's going to be the whole picture in terms of the systemic response that all these physiological changes, where are they stemming from, and how do you improve that? So all the whole system kind of improves at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think and especially from listening to your chat, it doesn't matter if you're working on your gut microbiome or eating more protein. If you're not pairing it with exercise, you're just not going to get the best benefit out of it.
Right.
Yeah. Michelle, anything to add on this one?
Well, with strength training, I think that's kind of what you see a lot on social media is that's all you need to do. Well, it's not all you need to do. I think we've kind of debunked that is, but strength training, like I kind of said at the beginning, you're losing 3 to 8% of your muscle mass every decade. So take it at age 50 where it accelerates to maybe 1 to 2%. You can still gain muscle when you're going through menopause. So I think maintaining and even gaining is so critically important. Like Rory said, it's like your bone health. And obviously the more muscle mass you have, that's better for your metabolism as well. Also your mental health. And you think about as we age and osteoporosis and things that can set in. And look where we live. Think about falls and how many people get injured. Yet, and I know even in my studio, how many people have fallen in the last couple of years on the ice and that they have had surgery and come back to Orangetheory because they had such a solid base of fitness that something that could have put them out and maybe never exercised again, they've come back to Orangetheory because they had. Think about power, that explosive. You're bracing for those falls onto those ice. So I think strength training, we know we need to do it. We know we need to maintain that muscle mass, especially at the age of 30 going onwards. And so that we can still live our best life and still pick up those heavy things and do the things that we love, the grandchildren or whatever, move those boxes, carry your 50-pound suitcases to the airport. But train, like I said, smart. You don't need a high volume. Like you don't need to be doing 20, 30 reps when you're training. Like stick to those lower rep counts. And like I say, season of strength was probably one of my most favorite challenges that we ever had so that you could see your strength score increase because that's what we were working on, like nothing more than 12. But the other thing I would highly encourage everyone is utilize our in-body scales. Like that is going to tell you where your muscle mass is. Stay ahead of it before it is out of hand. Yeah, you like if you can start early and keep that muscle mass maintained or gaining, that's a great place to be. So utilize those in-body scales so you know where you're at.
I think like a follow-up question, Michelle, and you've seen a lot of transformation challenges over, 13 years. But is it like, I think another question, can you gain muscle at Orange Theory?
Absolutely, you can gain muscle in Orangetheory. Of course you can. Like I would just say, I've been in the fitness industry, like I say, over 40 years. I honestly, of everything I've ever coached, this is the most balanced workout that I've ever seen. Yes, it's backed on science. It's just not random people putting this together. Ellen Latham is an exercise physiologist. She knew what she was doing. And our workouts are the best they have ever been with that balanced approach of strength training, the cardio part. Yeah, we do flexibility. Yes, I think that's something to incorporate more. But yeah, like our workout gives you everything you need to do to, like I say, live life till its fullest, like that longevity part, which we know is, you know, indication of, well, longevity. How long do we want to live as healthy as we can?
Yeah. And I think what's important to know is like it's never too late to start. Like if
Never.
you're, just dabbling into Orange Theory and you're like, have I started too late? Like there is no such thing. Just start.
Absolutely. And I know we have members, I think maybe some of you on here that come in that have never lifted a weight until the kids are grown up and now they're sitting in their late 40s and they come in and I see the transformation and it is absolutely, that's the most rewarding part about being a coach is just seeing women lift these incredible weights that they once thought, oh, if I lift these weights, I'm gonna be big and bulky. Well, no, you're not going to be big and bulky. You're going to be very strong and very balanced in a very, like a balanced fit way.
Yeah. And I think that the like this question also really ties into what we're seeing a lot right now in the GLP-1 area, where these two pieces together mixed with that, if that's something you and your doctor are talking about, is so important.
Definitely. I think Rory, you probably deal with it all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
I think everybody knows on GLP, like one of the most important things is your muscle mass
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's
You're
affected.
losing fat with your bending muscle mass. And I think that for me, it's like, if there's reasons you're on it, you're on it. But then you've got to adapt what you're eating to the GLP-1. You can't use it as a band-aid. It suppresses your appetite, which means you're more compromised in terms of how much you're eating, which means your fiber intake goes down. For some people, they don't tolerate the GLP-1, right? Or it stops working, it stops being effective. So do you have a backup? Do you know what you're doing without the GLP-1? And I think the next question we're going to go through, I'll talk a little bit about resting metabolic rate testing, but that kind of ties into it also. But it's building long-term habits, right? Like years and years ago, 25 plus years ago, when I have people flying to Tijuana to do bariatric surgery, and they were just doing it. Like, you've got to go through a whole through period, the whole through, protocol now to kind of get to that point where you can get bariatric surgery. But people are just ready and able to start the GLP-1s. And I think that it's the protein and everything else that kind of, it's more compromising, like it's restrictive. And it's how they're affecting their metabolism long term on these kinds of meds. Just because you're eating less and the weight goes down doesn't necessarily mean it's the healthiest approach. So there are ways to use it, absolutely, and be beneficial, right? To manage blood sugars and insulin resistance and everything else. So there's nothing wrong with being on a GLP-1, but you kind of have to know how to use it effectively and combine that with dietary strategies.
Yeah, and I think, like Rory said, dietary and how you train. I'm going to go back to again, because muscle mass is one of the number one things that happens that is lost during GLP-1. So get on that in-body scale. Like maybe every 3 months you're on that scale. Make sure you're not losing that muscle that you've worked so hard to gain.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and you guys both said it. It's what's happening after. Like a lot of people are not developing the habits during taking these drugs that when they do come off of it, they go backwards, unfortunately, right? So yeah, absolutely. Okay, you guys have alluded to it. We're jumping to it. Women tend to think their bodies are broken during menopause and they can't lose weight. What really affects weight gain during this stage of life? Who wants to start?
Go ahead, Rory.
So the first thing is hormonal changes, which we've kind of touched on already. Like menopause is going to affect the muscle mass reduction, the fat distribution, the insulin sensitivity, appetite regulation, sleep, everything, right? So that is absolutely going to affect weight, right? It's metabolic changes that are happening, but metabolism is individual. Okay. I can't even count how many times a week I hear, well, we should look at, like, I tell them, well, maybe we should look at resting metabolic rate tested and see where you're at. And they're like, I don't have a metabolism. That's a waste of money. I'm like, yes, you do. Right? Like yes, you have a metabolism. It might be weaker than what it should be, but there's still one there, right? And that's why I really think as a birthday gift to anybody who's turning, 40 or transitioning into this, and it's always like, perimenopause, what the hell? What am I supposed to do now? Those people should really look at resting metabolic rate testing because it gives you a foundation in terms of where you're starting from, because it really doesn't matter what you did in your 20s and 30s. For men, it's different, right? They don't have this drastic jump, but I'll have a man who sits down in their 60s who are like, I said, oh, are you active? Yeah, I used to play on a professional rugby team and I did this and this in my 20s. And I'm like, you're 65. Like, that's awesome. It must have been an awesome experience for you, but it really doesn't matter anymore. For women, it really changes whether they've had kids. The hormones are always fluctuating. 90% of these issues in terms of digestion and things that evolve with menopause is hormonal, right? So it's a big, big piece. So your metabolism, if you have issues like that are digestive issues, there's no way it's not affecting your metabolism and how your body is taking in calories. And then that's obviously going to affect the weight gain during this stage of life. So resting metabolic rate testing, I work with, he's a kinesiologist. His name is Corey Fagan at TCR Sport Labs. And he is the bomb. If you're in Calgary and you've never heard of TCR, you should. As an athlete, they do a lot of this testing like VO2 max, and he has an altitude chamber. He has some really cool things there, but the resting metabolic rate testing for sure is my favorite. What it does is it gives you an indication of how efficiently your body is burning calories off at rest, and then also how your body is burning fats versus carbs. So literally, and that's why I developed this sheet, is that I can give people a number in terms of how many checks or proteins, fats, and carbs they need in a day, but it's based on what their individual resting metabolic rate is, right? So it's an individual, there's no cookie cutter approach in life, but for sure not in menopause. Okay, not everybody is going to burn carbohydrates and fats the same way. The same way is that you need to kind of adjust things in terms of your cardio that Michelle was talking about as well, right? Like our bodies evolve, it's physiological changes over time. So for an example, this woman, again, I picked 3 examples of just like women who are just like in menopause and are like, what the hell is going on here? I'm seeing weight gain. First of all, I'll stop them right there and say, are you sure it's all weight? You sure not, some of it's not bloat, right? Because it all sits around the midline when the estrogen level starts to drop. So for a lot of these women, they feel like they're gaining 10 pounds, but it's really bloat, right? So that's the first step to cut that down and kind of address that first. If they're still looking at their metabolism, it will give them what's called their METs, which is basically a unit in terms of how efficient their body is burning calories off. Most people, they want to be a 1.0, right? A 1.0 METs is a gold standard. So this is a range. I have one at a 0.9, one at a 0.8, and one at a 0.6, right? So it does vary based on the person, but based on whatever their METs are, they will get a resting energy expenditure, which is how many calories per day they're burning. One's 1655, one's 1498, one's 953. That person, not a fun conversation, right? But it will also break down, well, based on how much your resting energy expenditure is, what is the percentage of how your body is burning down fats versus carbs? Now, ideally, you want to be between 70 to 80% fats and 20 to 30% carbs. Okay, so if they're not within range, like this one is perfect, 75% fat. This is great because when you have somebody with good results that comes out, it's not metabolic, it's gut stuff, right? So it identifies and validates for the woman, like this isn't just weight gain, like you're not gaining weight, it's that this gut stuff is actually affecting your metabolism. Whereas somebody who is like, 14% fat, which isn't great when you want to be 70 to 80%, it gives them room to improve things and we know what to shift. So I love this test because it's literally an individualized approach to figure out where their metabolism is at and reduces a lot of the anxiety that is involved around the weight gain as well.
Um, I have a question that came in that's relevant to this. If somebody did this testing 10 years ago, should they get a new reading now that they're into perimenopause?
So it definitely affects if you have somebody with a digestion issue, right, who is feeling a lot of it is bloating, right? That changes over time, like it can get worse, right? So we're typically better at metabolizing and absorbing carbohydrates at an earlier age, typical, like general guidelines, right? So that's the way your body can absorb or metabolize carbohydrates can change over time, big time. I've had somebody who's gone from 131% carbs in their late 30s to 31% by the time they're 49. So it can definitely shift.
And this is affected by like muscle mass as well as which obviously if you're not exercising, you're losing it. So that'll affect your resting rate, but also diet history.
Diet history, restricting.
Yeah. Which who hasn't, as
Constant
we know.
dieting will lower your metabolism for sure. Yeah, it's really restriction causes more dysbiosis. And I think unfortunately what happens when women are going into menopause is they cut back more on stuff, thinking that that's what's contributing to the weight gain. And as Michelle said, then you start exercising more, or she was doing it like you exercise more, you pick up your exercises, you eat left. I have had countless conversations with somebody like, you got to give a day up of exercise, you got to eat more. You choose, right? Because you can't do both. Your body is going into self-starvation and this isn't working.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Michelle, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think Rory, you nailed it all. Because I was one of those people. It's broken. I think about you know, like going back to your metabolic health, like lifting weights and how that's going to help you as well lose weight. You can still lose weight during menopause, but I think I don't know, I'll just think generally, I think most people don't understand kind of where they're resting, like what their metabolic rate is. And I think that test, I think, is so critically important because if you don't have that as a starting number, then how do you know how also to train? And I think the significance is when you think your body's broken and you do the opposite of what you should be doing or you're not making those adaptations to your training, I think that's when the frustration kicks in. Which I think happens to a lot of people. Like I was one of
Well,
them.
there's a lot of like metabolism, like, calculators online, right? But they don't know your history.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a great guideline, right? Like completely different realm. I had a 30-year-old athlete, male who came in today and he was like, "Oh, I'm aiming for 3,500 calories." Well, I had him have this test done before and his resting metabolic rate was 1,600. So he's been force feeding, like I don't even know how he's working because I would imagine he just has to sit home and eat all day. But he was aiming for complete because my fitness pal told him 3,500, right? That's the only reason he was aiming for it. I'm like, you can cut some slack, like cut yourself some slack. You don't need to eat that much, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just and these all three women are exactly the same in terms of their goals, but they're also different. I love it because there is no cookie cutter approach, right? It's frustrating for sure because it's navigating through all the information. But once you have it, it's pretty foolproof because you know what you have to eat.
I don't know if this question came in, but I think I've been asked it a lot. Intermittent fasting for women in menopause and perimenopause. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so intermittent fasting I find more common with people who do have digestive issues and that the load of food that they're having the night before, they're not feeling great. It's working all night to get absorbed. So of course, who's going to wake up after having a high load of foods that are difficult to absorb and feel like, what's for breakfast? Like nobody, right? So they just naturally kind of eat later because their gut is unsettled or they're feeling nauseous or they're not hungry. So they kind of like expand it. If it works for you, then great. You know, if you want to do an 11 to 7 window, fantastic. You still have to make sure that you're not compromising any of the fiber or the protein or everything within that window. So it can help manage and control the amount of calories you're getting in a day, but there's not a lot of evidence behind it in terms of like metabolism, menopause, and things like that directly.
Yeah. Yeah. Last one before we head into the last question, just because it's relevant, like the difference between the metabolic rate test versus the metabolic rate that we get on the in-body. I think it's related to with the MyFitnessPal piece where it's a good starting point,
Yeah.
but might not be like if you find it's not helping, then
Yeah.
get professional help.
Yeah, so the metabolic rate, I didn't even know that the Embody machine at Orangetheory does that. It's probably a guideline, but this is going to take it because it's not going to give you fats versus carbs. It's just going to give you the overall calories. So again, it's a good starting point for sure. But if you want to take it that extra step and kind of figure out what do I have to eat based on that number of calories, then the test that Corey has at TCR is probably a better one.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, we're like almost there. Doing great, ladies. All right, so this is kind of, I wanted you both to bring one piece of women's health, nutrition, fitness advice that's just so popular in social media that you want to fact check, debunk, just get out there that it's probably too good to be true. Michelle, why don't we start with you?
Well, I'm going to go back to obviously the cardio because I see it all the time, but I'm going to be specific about the cardio. It says no hit training, no interval training. Mm-mm. What we are actually, interval training is good. Let's raise that heart rate up a little bit and bring it back down. We're working on our cardiovascular health, our heart health. So it again, it goes back to a balanced approach in training. You need cardio. We need to, like you say, our endurance days, working on increasing our aerobic capacity, that number to grow and get bigger. So again, I think that one sticks with me the most because I hear it and see it all the time on reasons why people don't want to do the treadmill anymore. No, no, no. You need it. It's a balanced approach. And again, you can do interval training, but what we are saying is maybe those days are, maybe you can power walk and maybe they don't have to be the high end of what your intervals used to be, but there is still nothing wrong with it. But do you do it every day in menopause, perimenopause? Do you need to? No. Again, going back to you need cardiovascular health, but how we approach it during this time is going to change.
Yeah.
Debunked. We need it.
All right, Rory, your turn.
So I think what one is important is fiber, and that more is not always better. And so, yeah, we've talked about fiber and how important it is in terms of building the diversity of the microbiome, and it's great for bowel health, obviously, and motility, blood sugar regulation, cholesterol, like inflammation regulation. There's so many advantages to doing fiber, but just loading up on a bunch of fiber, especially if there's an underlying functional digestive disorder, is going to backfire. Like it's not going to work, right? Because their guts can't handle it. And remember that there's a lot of changes happening through menopause where things slow down. Like you maybe never had an issue with constipation and now you do. You maybe never used to get bloating, maybe you were, but now it's really pronounced and you can't push it under the rug, right? So it's the sources of fiber, it's where you're getting fiber from. It's not concentrated sources of fiber that is just like beyond 25 grams per day, right? Unless you're somebody who's severely constipated, you do not need to have 40 grams of fiber in a day. I don't know how you're even moving, right? It's a lot of fiber. So it's challenging for women who are experiencing bloating, who are experiencing like more gas, all the fun stuff, constipation, diarrhea. It's a lot of people who get heartburn, right? It's just too much to handle, especially because some of the sources of fiber you're getting, and this is a whole other talk on its own, has what's called FODMAPs in them. And FODMAPs are basically fermentable carbohydrates. It stands for fermentable oligosaccharide, disaccharide, monosaccharide, and polyol. That's why you call it FODMAPs. But we know that all of these FODMAPs are low to fructose are heavy for a lot of people to actually absorb. And the result of the FODMAPs going through the esophagus into the small bowel, being pushed into the colon, it produces a lot of fermentable carbohydrates. It all goes around the midline, the same spot where the estrogen is dropping and everything accumulates, which is why most women think, oh, I gained 10 pounds when they're bloated. Okay, so a lot of that kind of issue, and it can relate to constipation, diarrhea, but for some people, this malabsorption issue with the high load of FODMAPs or fructose will give them no digestive issue, but it's going to give them brain fog or going to give them energy dips or cravings for sweet or salt because they're not absorbing the right kinds of fiber. So if you keep piling on fiber when you have that malabsorption issue, you're creating more problems. Right. And so I think that's why the digestion piece is such a big one when women kind of go over that edge in terms of menopause.
Yeah. Yeah. It was life-changing when I took pea protein out of my life from your
Oh,
conversation.
you're
Life-changing.
welcome. Many
Okay.
emails after that comment. I'm like, pea protein. I'm like, it's not the pea protein. It's the fact that now you're using, I won't name a brand, but anything with pea protein, and you're doing it every single day, right? Like that's
Yeah.
the
I did it multiple times a day to the point, exactly what you said. It's like stacking.
it's stacking, and I'm bloated just thinking about that.
Okay, I do have one question because I know we have like 3 minutes. What about creatine? Is it is it as important as protein?
Michelle, you can go.
Uh, well, I do take creatine. I just, like I come back from years of competitive bodybuilding. So in those days, it was not so good. My opinion is, I think if it works for you, fine. I would never promote a supplement. I think that's individual. I think Rory would be the expert on whether or not that is something. I personally use it.
Yeah. There is some more evidence coming out with creatine and menopause specifically, but in terms of brain function, it's the dosage, like the 5 milligrams, not going overboard, but that's the same with anything, right? Like if you take a protein powder and you're taking like 60 grams of protein powder in a day, it's a lot of protein powder. You're compromising other things within your diet. So I always like to look at like, what are you eating? And then do you want to add the creatine and make sure it's the only thing you're adding so you actually notice if there's a difference with using it, right? But there's no adverse effects to using creatine. I think it's beneficial for a lot of women, like during menopause. But then again, if you're looking at the whole diet and you're optimizing fiber and protein and things and you're taking creatine, it's really hard to decipher what's really working, right? But there's no harm in taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I also take it. Um, okay, I know that we are basically at the end here. Are there any other closing notes that you two lazy ladies would love to add, finish on? I feel like we went over a lot. I know there were some questions we didn't have a chance to get to. Some are a little bit more personalized, kind of like Rory hit on. Specific questions, everyone's individual. Like you might need to seek out a dietitian, some more specific planning and prescribing that's going to work for that situation. Ladies, any closing notes?
I would like to say, like, I love just listening to Rory myself. Rory, I'm going to be your next client. I'm gonna get that test. You know what? I'm turning 60 this year, and like I say, had I known then what I know now, I would have done things a lot different. So I've taken away a lot from Rory as well. I think from my standpoint, I hope anybody that is going to Orange Theory or coaches or franchisees that are dealing with members right now with so many different situations and not sure how to train and the frustration that this is going to help guide you to answering their questions to let them know that you can keep doing Orange Theory Fitness, but how you do it is going to be different than what you think you've been doing or what you've done for the last 5, 10 years, depending how long you've been an Orange Theory member. And that you do need cardio and that you do need the strength training, and it is a balanced approach. And I hope that part of understanding your Orange Theory workout carries through, and you learn to love the rower.
Yeah, I would agree. It's menopause isn't the end of your health or energy. It's just a transition and you just need to adapt to it. I think it's an exciting time as well. I know you don't hear that often. It sounds like hell. But it's a transition and there's a lot of improvements that you can make that maybe you didn't have time for before. And now you do have time for it. And there's so many tools we have, like the resting metabolic rate testing or knowing Mediterranean works or the plant diversity and things that allow us to be more inclusive that we didn't know 10 years ago, right? So it's an advantage if you're going through menopause to be going through it now. I mean, I taught fitness classes for 15, 16 years prior to going to Orangetheory. And one of the main reasons I liked it at the beginning was because I didn't have to talk to anybody after teaching for so long. But I love it. Like it's just a great balance. And I think one of the big take homes I got today is when Michele said you should power walk, because I'm like, that's what I do. I didn't even know that. And I'm like, woo, right? Like that's fantastic. I don't even have to change that up. It's one less thing I have to do this week. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity. I love it. And I'm a strong advocate of the program. And I think the coaches are amazing. And I've gone to all different ones across Canada and it's great.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much to both of you. This probably won't be our last one. We have a lot of like people thanking you for the session in the chats. We covered a lot of topics. The recording will be sent out, but otherwise, thank you, ladies, for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Thank you. Bye.